Time to make some more coconut yogurt. So what I'm going to do is start off with a really quick little example of what I do with the shredded coconut in order to make coconut yogurt. If you can find really good canned coconut yogurt locally for yourself that's affordable and is actually mostly coconut, definitely I recommend doing that. And make sure it's just coconut, not all the other stuff. I unfortunately don't have access to that here, so I have found making it out of shredded coconut is a great option. And I am using organic, and it does not have any other ingredients in it as well. So basically I've just poured hot water into it, basically boiling water, and let it sit until it cooled down enough that it could go into the Vitamix and then be blended for about a minute. And then, as you can see, we're pouring it into the nut milk bag, which I highly recommend. They're super useful. Make sure to turn it inside out first, and then you don't have to worry about it getting all stuck in the seams. And my husband was happy to come along and help me squeeze it all out, because that is actually a bit of work. And when you have chronic fatigue, that kind of thing can really take it out of you. So that was awesome for him to help me. And then from there, we go on to, we've got Mood Probiotic and Gasseri from Mercola. And so what I'm doing is I'm not mixing them together in the same batch. There's going to be 4 little jars of one and 4 little jars of the other, all in the same batch. So I'm mixing in here 2 tablespoons of agar with a little bit of the coconut milk. Now, the coconut milk has been warming up. It's not super warm, but it's been warming up. So it's not freezing cold, and yet it did work really well. The goal here is to make a slurry, and you can see I'm adding 1 tablespoon as well of inulin. And mix those all together, and when you get a really good slurry going, what that does is it keeps it from lumping up when you put it in with the whole mix. So you can get it into something that's kind of thick, and then slowly add some more of the coconut milk in to make it even more liquid. And then when you dump it into the pot, the whole thing comes out really nicely and you don't have to worry about it. And I'm adding 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar. That's just something that I've been doing that seems to work. It's not following any particular instructions from anyone, so that may change depending on what you want to do. What I do find is every time I have added this in, the final product is not sweet, which is exactly what I'm hoping for, because that means that the probiotics have been eating the sugar, which is good, because I don't want to be eating the sugar. I want them to eat the sugar. So I'm really glad that that worked out well. And then it's just a matter of mixing it in. I use my frother sometimes, actually usually, and that helps just to really make sure everything is blended in really nicely. And then bring it up to a boil, which does take a little while. And you can see here where it's just starting to boil. This is why it's actually really helpful to make sure that you've got a pretty tall pot, because I actually had my back turned when it started boiling. So by the time I came over to the stove, you can see it's really starting to come up. And in one of my previous videos, you see that I had used a smaller pot and it boiled all over everything. So this time it doesn't really matter. All I needed to do was get it off the heat and then stir it, and we're all good to go. And also, of course, you want to make sure to keep stirring it lots so that it doesn't burn. And from there, then I stick it in a big pan of cold water, which I change out several times. And now I'm just watching the temperature with the meat thermometer, which apparently is not quite as accurate as the body temperature thermometer, which I will switch over to once we get closer to actual body temperature. And I've already got the Ultimate Probiotic Yogurt Maker going, so that I've got water in there that is up to temperature and ready to go. So there's no extra time waiting for it to get up to temperature. And then there's just the long process of stirring, and letting it go down and watching the temperature. Once it gets down to what I think is going to be pretty close to what we want, which will be a little bit higher, now we know, on the meat thermometer, and then I can start adding in the body temperature thermometer to see what we are actually at. And once we get down there, then what I'm doing, because I'm making 2 different probiotics, I'm splitting it up evenly between the 2 so that I can mix probiotics differently in each one. And we're going to check the temperature here, and this is exactly where we want it. So we're at just under 100 degrees. So there's our probiotics, and I'll keep the containers next to each one. You can see the Gasseri, the big test to make sure that it's all good. It is good, stored in the fridge. And it has been in there for several months and did not have any problems. It hasn't gone moldy. It hasn't caked up like they have previously, which, as I mentioned, Mercola did replace that for me for free, which was great. And so this new container is working out really well. And I'm not using any starter because I haven't been able to make yogurt for several months. So I'm now just starting over again, basically, because I've had to just eat what I had while I was waiting for the time that we're at now, where we have no air conditioner running, which apparently was blowing mold spores around and causing quite a few batches of yogurt to not work. So I am so excited to get started on this again because I love having these mixes of yogurt. I think my gut really, really likes that. And I have a very, very difficult digestive issue. So having good quality yogurt that is working is super important. So now that I have got both kinds of yogurt ready to go, mixed in, then what I'm going to do is start pouring them into the containers and get ready to go into the ultimate. Now, as Dr. Davis recommends, we're going to be doing about 36 hours. You don't have to do exactly 36, I found. I usually set it a bit higher just in case I'm not able to get to it right at the time that it's done at 36. So I've done that enough times now that I know that that doesn't seem to be a big deal. And I know some people prefer to just do 24 hours, and that's fine too. The thing with 36 is that you're just going to get more proliferating of the probiotic. So that's why it's a good one to aim for these particular ones. As you may have seen in my previous video about the spore probiotic, that was a 24-hour one that, according to what Dr. Davis recommends, and it worked out really well. So I'm very, very happy with that as well. Now, I'm filling these jars pretty high. If you saw my last video on the spore probiotic, you probably saw that the yogurt, as it was fermenting, actually, some of them popped up so that the lid actually kind of came off. Not completely, but it was popped up. And there was a bunch of air in the bottom. And so this time I'm going to be a little bit more cautious about keeping those lids pushed down. They are a little bit fuller than you would probably normally want. You want to have a little bit more room for air at the top, but I just basically had to kind of eyeball it, and what I ended up with, I basically wanted to use up everything that I've got. I hate making some of the yogurt and having it just be thrown out because there was too much for the jars. So I'm just going to fill them all the way up and keep pushing them down, because I do check the temperature quite a bit, because I'm always just cautious to see how it's going. And yes, this particular batch is being poured out of a plastic container. I know some of you are very, very against using plastic close to any of your product. I'm not too worried about this one because at this point, the yogurt is down to a cool enough temperature that it shouldn't be a problem. But I do get that when it comes to heat, I don't like to have any plastic around any of my food. So, packed her all up. In we go. And now we're going to set the temperature. And just keeping those containers nearby so I remember which is which. So now what I'm going to do is reset it. It's already been going for a while, so it's up to temperature. And we're going to start over again. And at the first go here, I'm going to set it down to 95 degrees because it seems to always go a little bit hotter. So we want somewhere around 100. That's what we're aiming for. We don't want to go up any higher than about 109 because then it will start killing the probiotics. So we don't want that. So I'm just going to set it above 36 there for the hours, just so that I have time to play with. And now at 21 hours left, I'm going to check it and see what temperature we've got. So it's been going for a little while, and then we can, push all those lids down and make sure that they're not popping up and having everything fall out. So checking the temperature here, I'm finding that's a bit low. 91.5 is lower than I would like it. It's not the worst thing, but it's not ideal. And then we got up to 92 there eventually. But because that is a little lower than I would like, what I'm going to do, I see we're at 21 hours. I'm going to reset it again, and I'm going to put the temperature up a little bit just to make sure that we're not quite that low. So this time I am setting it at 98. And we'll put it back to the 21 hours, which is, approximate. It's not exactly 21 because they don't have the minutes there. And checking again at 17 hours left to go and pushing those lids down. They were kind of popping up a tiny bit. Not too bad, but anyway. We check the temperature. And it's at 100.2. And then up to, 101, which is great. That's exactly where we want it. So very happy with that. Check all those lids again. And let her go. And now we're done. So it says an hour left. So it was roughly an hour left. And yet again, checking the temperature. This may seem a little retentive to do, but I just want to be cautious with it. We're at 98.6, which is excellent. So out they come. And checking the temperature of a few different ones just to see how they compare. Just because I don't know if there might be a little bit more heat on one side or the other. They seem to be pretty even, I think. And of course, now that they're actually out of the maker, their temperature is slowly dropping. So 97 again is not bad. And then comparing it there to 106 with the meat thermometer. So there is definitely quite a difference. So that's something to be aware of that I'll just keep watching in the future. And this is the fiber that was left over from when I made the yogurt milk out of the shredded coconut. So what I did was cooked it in the oven on a big cookie sheet at 280, which I think actually might have been a bit low. It might go a little bit higher in the future because it took several hours just to get to this level of toasted, and I actually wanted it a little bit more toasted. So I'll try for a little bit more in the future, and we'll see how it goes. It does come out really nice, and I like to make, treats, coconut bars, things like that with this as well. It's super handy, and you can use it instead of inulin probably because it is a fiber, so it would serve kind of the same purpose, and I have done that in the past, and I'll probably do it again in the future. So that is the 2 batches that I made, and I'm super happy with them. I hope it's helpful to you, and God bless.